12 rock songs that outsold half the bands you grew up worshiping. Gold records, number ones.
I'm gonna make her mine, all mine. Hey.
Songs that beat the Rolling Stones to the charts and outsold catalogs you can still hum today. Then they vanished. Not faded, vanished. You know the story of the one-hit wonder who never had the talent to follow up. This isn't that story. These artists had the songs. They had the sales. The industry just let them go. 12 of them. Let's dig them back up. Number 12. Time Won't Let Me. The Outsiders, 1966. I want you to picture 6 teenage boys from Cleveland who'd already been playing together for 7 years before anybody outside Ohio ever heard their name. That's the part people miss about the Outsiders. They weren't some garage band that got lucky on the first try. Tom King started this group, first as the Starfires, back in 1958, when he was 15 years old. 7 years of bar bands. 7 years of bar bands, 6 nights a week, before Time Won't Let Me ever touched a turntable. Here's what I think about when I hear that opening 12-string riff. It's the sound of patience finally paying off.
To love you, to hold you in my...
The song hit number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April of 1966. Sold over 1 million copies, earned a gold disc. For about 6 months, the Outsiders were genuinely one of the biggest bands in America, touring with Paul Revere and the Raiders, sharing bills with the Seeds and the Shadows of Night, playing Hullabaloo on national television.
Even though he won.
But here's the problem. Lightning doesn't usually strike twice in the same garage. They landed 3 more top 40 hits that year. Girl in Love, Respectable, Help Me Girl, and then, almost as fast as it arrived, the moment was gone. Drummer Jim Fox left to start a new band of his own, a little outfit called the James Gang, the one that gave the world Joe Walsh. And here's the part that still gets me. Lead singer Sonny Geraci spent the rest of his career chasing that high one more time. He found it, briefly, with a different band called Climax and the song Precious and Few.
Even though he won me too.
But by then, nobody remembered he used to be an outsider. And if you were riding in the backseat of your parents' car with an AM dial crackling through this one in '66, you already know exactly the sound I'm talking about. You know how it goes when lightning becomes a memory instead of a moment? When the song that made you is also the song nobody outside the fan club can name anymore? Time Won't Let Me still gets played on classic rock radio today. You've probably heard it without knowing the name. That 12-string hook, that horn stab, that voice straining against the clock, a gold record, a number 5 hit, completely anonymous.
Can't wait forever.
Number 11, A Lover's Concerto, The Toys, 1965. In the fall of 1965, this song was everywhere. Number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 1 on Cashbox. Over 2 million copies sold, certified gold booblies. And it sounds exactly like what it is. 3 teenage girls singing their hearts out over the most beautiful melody of the Baroque era. Here's the thing about that melody, though. For 250 years, almost everyone on Earth believed it was written by Johann Sebastian Bach. It's in his wife's notebook. It's been called Bach's Minuet in G for generations. There's a scene in Mr. Holland's Opus where a teacher uses it to explain Bach to a room full of kids. But here's what I think is wild. It wasn't Bach at all. It was a far less famous composer named Christian Petzold, an organist working in Dresden, buried under a more famous man's name for 2.5 centuries. Songwriters Sandy Linzer and Denny Randell took that melody, flipped it from 3/4 time into 4/4, wrote new lyrics, and handed it to the Toys. And a quarter millennium of mistaken identity turned into one of 1965's biggest hits almost by accident. And here's where it gets sadder. The Toys themselves barely got to enjoy it. High up in the tree, serenade the flower with their follow-up single, Attack, did fine. But after that, nothing landed. Lead singer Barbara Harris eventually left to raise a family, and by 1968, the Toys were finished. 3 years after selling 2 million copies of a song built on a 400-year-old foundation that almost nobody, themselves included, understood correctly. If you've ever had someone else get credit for the thing you actually built, you know exactly what this song's history feels like. Petzold wrote it. Bach got the glory for centuries. The Toys sold the records. Time erased their names first and fastest. It took musicologists until the 1970s to finally set the record straight on Petzold. By then, A Lover's Concerto had already faded off the radio, and almost nobody noticed the correction at all. Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story. Number 10. Hey, Baby. Bruce Channel, 1962. A gal I like to meet. She's so pretty. Lord, she's fine. 3 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 2 in the UK. I wanna know if you'll be my girl. Hey. Over 1 million copies sold, gold disc in hand, and an opening harmonica riff so good that musicians built entire careers studying it. Be my girl. Hey. Here's the setup. Channel was a 21-year-old from Jacksonville, Texas, who'd been performing this song live for 2 years before he ever got near a recording studio. When he finally cut it in 1961, the song's secret weapon wasn't his voice. When you turned and walked away, that's a way. It was harmonica player Delbert McClinton, whose opening riff is honestly the whole reason you remember this song at all. Be my girl. And if you grew up with a transistor radio pressed against your ear in the early 60s, you already know that sound. That sustained first note, that rhythmic pulse underneath it. When I saw you walking down the street, I said that's a kind. It's one of those songs that the second it starts drops you straight back into a kitchen, a car, a sock hop you haven't thought about in decades. I wanna know. But here's the legend that's been repeated for 60 years. Hey, baby. The story goes that when Bruce Channel toured the UK in 1962 with a still unknown opening act called the Beatles, Delbert McClinton personally taught John Lennon how to play harmonica, and that lesson became the intro to Love Me Do. I wanna know if you'll be my girl. Hey. Stay with me on this one, though. I wanna know. McClinton himself has gone on record saying that's not quite true. I wanna know. Lennon already knew how to play. McClinton just gave him a few pointers backstage.
I wanna know if you
The full Lennon learned harmonica from us story is bigger than what actually happened.
when you turned and walked away. That's the way.
But the connection between that riff and Love Me Do is real enough that historians still argue over where one ends and the other begins.
Hey, baby,
Here's what gets me though.
you be my girl.
A song that hit #1, sold over 1 million copies, and somehow ended up best remembered as a footnote in somebody else's origin story.
You be my girl.
Even though it never needed the favor.
Hey, baby,
Channel never had another hit close to this size.
when I saw you walking down the street, I said that's a kind.
He eventually settled into songwriting in Nashville and let Hey Baby carry the weight of his whole career.
I wanna know if you'll be my girl. Hey,
If you've heard this one in Dirty Dancing and never once knew the name behind it, you're not alone.
be my girl. Hey,
Number 9, Western Union, The Five Americans, 1967.
Gone away and how it's sad to say you're gone.
Picture 5 college kids from Durant, Oklahoma, fooling around with a guitar sound that clicked like a telegraph key, tapping out Morse code.
Western Union.
That's literally how this song was born. Guitarist Mike Raybon stumbled onto it, the band built a song around it, and Western Union rocketed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the spring of 1967. Sold over 1 million copies, earned a gold record. For a few months, this band from a tiny Oklahoma college was bigger than half the British invasion acts dominating the airwaves. Here's the part of the story most people never hear though. The Five Americans were managed by John Abnor Sr., who also happened to own the label they recorded for, one man controlling both the band's career and their money. For years, that arrangement seemed fine. The band toured, the hits kept their name on the radio, nobody asked too many questions. But here's what happened next.
Wrong today, bad news came my way. I woke up to find
When Abnor died in 1996, the rights to the band's own songs should have reverted back to them. Instead, the master recordings had already been sold off to another company. Without the Five Americans ever being told, let alone asked. A song that sold over 1 million copies, decades of royalties, and the band found out secondhand that their own work had changed hands without their names anywhere on the paperwork. If you've ever built something with people you trusted, only to watch it get sold out from under you by someone who was supposed to be looking out for you, you understand exactly what this feels like. It's not betrayal in the dramatic sense. It's quieter than that. Just a phone call that should have come, and never did. They eventually got a share of what they were owed. Eventually isn't the same as in time, though. To this day, Western Union still gets airplay something like 5,000 times a month on American oldies radio.
wrong today, bad news came my way. I woke up to find
Most of the people listening have no idea what the band behind it actually went through just to keep that telegraph click riff on the air at all. Number 8, Snoopy versus the Red Baron, The Royal Guardsman, 1966.
Curses roiled again. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
6 teenagers from Ocala, Florida, watching Peanuts on a Sunday, laughing at Snoopy, imagining himself a World War I flying ace, battling the Red Baron above his doghouse. If you were flipping through that comic strip in the Sunday paper before this song ever existed, the whole scene was already playing out in your head before the band picked up an instrument. That comic strip became a song almost by accident, and that song became a monster. Number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 8 in the UK.
Rose, a funny-looking dog with a big black nose.
Over 1 million copies sold, 12 weeks on the charts, a gold record for a band whose average age barely cleared 20.
In the nick of time, a hero.
Here's the problem, though. Nobody actually asked Charles Schulz if they could use his characters.
Well, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 or more.
The label sent Schulz's people a copy for approval before release, and somewhere along the line, somebody just never opened it.
That it'd get that man, so he asked the great pumpkin for.
By the time Snoopy vs. the Red Baron was selling out record stores nationwide, Schulz and United Feature Syndicate were filing suit against a band of kids who had no idea they were even being chased.
Or more, the bloody Red Baron was rolling up a score.
You know what's strange, though? They settled, and Schulz didn't just let them keep going. He eventually drew the cover art for their second album himself.
20, 30, 40, 50 or more, the bloody Red Baron.
But here's the part nobody talks about. That settlement came at a cost. The label leaned in hard. The Royal Guardsmen followed up with the return of the Red Baron, then Snoopy for president, then Snoopy's Christmas, which actually hit number 1.
The bloody Red Baron.
4 straight singles built around a cartoon beagle and a World War I villain. And here's the emotional truth underneath it. These were genuinely talented musicians. Tight players, real songwriters, and the industry boxed them into the Snoopy band so completely that nobody ever gave their other material a real shot.
Flew into the sky to seek revenge, but the Baron shot him down.
Lead singer Barry Winslow has talked about walking on stage and watching mothers in the crowd look disappointed that 6 guys with guitars weren't actually Charlie Brown's dog.
Bloody Red Baron was in a fix. He tried everything.
That's a specific kind of trap. Succeed too perfectly at one thing, and the industry decides that's all you're allowed to be.
Came a roar and a thunder, man, it never hurt.
Number 7, Judy in Disguise, with Glasses. John Fred and his Playboy Band, 1967. Here's the setup nobody expects. John Fred Gourier, 6'5", former college baseball and basketball star out of Baton Rouge, wasn't trying to write a novelty hit. He was a serious, blue-eyed soul singer. His band had just scored a regional number 1 along the Gulf Coast called Up and Down, climbing the R&B charts fast. Then radio programmers found out the Playboy Band was white, and the song got quietly pulled from black radio stations almost overnight. Stay with me here, because that's the moment everything changed. Frustrated by an industry that had just shown him exactly where its lines were, Fred pivoted the band toward pop. That pivot led him, one afternoon, to mishear 4 words coming out of his car radio. He heard the Beatles' Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and thought Lennon was singing Lucy in Disguise.
Come to me tonight. Come to me tonight.
Fred loved the phrase so much he sat down on a beach in Fort Lauderdale, surrounded by women in oversized Jackie O sunglasses, and wrote a song around the mishearing. The title was originally Beverly in Disguise. He changed it before release. Judy in Disguise, with Glasses, hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January of 1968. Sold over 1 million copies, earned the band a gold disc. And when John Fred actually met John Lennon afterward, Lennon told him he loved it, and joked he was going to write his own parody called Froggy in a Pond with Spectacles. Here's what gets me about this one, though. A song born out of being shut out by the industry for the color of the band's skin became the band's only real shot, and then the industry turned right around and filed it away as a novelty act. A Beatles knockoff, a one-trick band. John Fred and his Playboy Band never had another hit close to this size. And somewhere in there is a quieter story about who an industry decides to take seriously, and who it doesn't, often for reasons that have nothing to do with the music at all. Number 6, The Game of Love. Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders, 1965. A British invasion band from Manchester, sandwiched on the charts between Freddie and the Dreamers and Herman's Hermits. Hits number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for exactly 1 week in April of 1965. Number 2 in the UK. Gold record. Over 1.5 million copies sold worldwide. And honestly, this might be one of the most underrated, purely fun rock and roll records of the entire British invasion. That Bo Diddley beat. That ridiculous opening line about the purpose of a man and the purpose of a woman.
Oh, yeah. Well, come on, baby, 'cause time is...
Delivered with absolutely zero self-awareness and 100% conviction.
Love you, daddy, with all your might. Put your arms around me, hold me tight.
Here's the setup behind the name. Wayne Fontana was really a kid from Manchester named Glenn Ellis, who took his stage name from Elvis's drummer DJ Fontana. His backing band, the Mindbenders, included a young guitarist named Eric Stewart. And here's the first turn.
Come on, baby, 'cause time is right.
Later in 1965, mid-tour, mid-success, Fontana just quit. Walked off in the middle of a show over a dispute about the band's direction. That should have been the end of the story. But here's the part that genuinely surprises people. The Mindbenders kept going without him, and scored an even bigger hit the following year with A Groovy Kind of Love. Then two of those Mindbenders, Eric Stewart and Graham Gouldman, went on to form a band you absolutely know, 10cc. Sit with that for a second. A song you've probably never thought twice about quietly led, 2 steps removed, to I'm Not in Love. And Fontana himself? His solo career fizzled. Decades later, in 2005, he made headlines again, not for music, but for setting a police car on fire, with the officer still inside, then showing up to his own court hearing, dressed as Lady Justice, sunglasses included. If you've ever watched something you built fall apart, not from betrayal but just from people wanting different things, you know that particular kind of loss. Game of Love still sounds like pure joy. The story behind it is a lot messier than that. Number 5, Eve of Destruction. Barry Maguire, 1965.
Old enough to kill, but not for voting. You don't believe.
A protest song written in one furious night by a 23-year-old songwriter named P.F. Sloan, who'd just discovered Bob Dylan and couldn't stop writing afterward.
Understand what I'm trying to say. Can't you feel the fears?
It got handed to a gravel-voiced former folk singer who'd just walked away from a clean-cut group called the New Christy Minstrels and almost didn't want to record it. Here's the wild part. The version that became a #1 hit was never supposed to be the final take. Maguire showed up to the studio, sang a rough vocal off a crumpled, half-legible piece of paper meant as a guide track, and went home expecting to redo it properly later. Instead, somebody at the label leaked that unfinished, raspy first take to a Los Angeles radio station overnight. By Monday morning, it was already on the air. Maguire got a phone call telling him to turn on his radio. The demo was now the record. Eve of Destruction hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in September of 1965.
I'm feeling today. If the button is pushed, there's no run.
Topped the charts in Canada and Norway too. Sold well past 1 million copies. And almost instantly, it became one of the most controversial songs in American radio history.
My blood's so mad, feels like coagulating. I'm sitting.
Here's the problem. Stations in Chicago, Washington, Baltimore, Memphis, they banned it outright, called it leftist propaganda, said it was practically aiding the enemy in Vietnam.
This whole crazy world is just too frustrating and
The BBC restricted it from general programming entirely. And here's the part that really stings. The controversy made the song bigger in the short term, but it also marked Maguire as radioactive. He never cracked the top 40 again, ever.
think of all
One #1 hit, then doors that simply stopped opening, because programmers had quietly decided that whatever Maguire put out next, they weren't touching it.
over and over and over again, my friend.
I'd argue this is one of the most consequential #1 hits of the decade. It helped fuel the push to lower the voting age to 18, and somehow it's one of the most underplayed today.
Star neighbor, but don't forget to say grace and tell.
You almost never hear it on oldies radio anymore. Too political, even 60 years later, for a format built on nostalgia instead of confrontation.
You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.
If you've ever done everything right and still watched the industry decide you were finished, you know exactly what it cost Maguire to write one perfect, furious song in a single night.
Over and over and over and over again.
Number 4, 96 Tears and the Mysterians, 1966.
You're way out on top now.
5 teenagers, children of Mexican-American migrant farm workers, recording in a basement studio in Bay City, Michigan, for a label so small, it didn't even have its own pressing plant.
96 tears.
That Vox organ riff you've heard 1,000 times in movies and commercials, that's 14-year-old keyboardist Frank Rodriguez, classically trained by a nun before he discovered rock and roll.
We'll be together for just a little while.
96 Tears hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in October of 1966, beating out the Monkees, the Four Tops, the Rolling Stones, Elvis Presley, and the Beach Boys in the same stretch of chart.
I'm gonna get there.
Certified gold, over 1 million copies sold. Rolling Stone would later rank it among the 500 greatest songs ever recorded.
You're gonna cry, 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 cry now. You're gonna
If you grew up loving garage rock, punk, or anything that sounds like it was recorded with the windows rattling, this riff already lives somewhere deep in that DNA, whether you knew the name or not.
but I know now.
Here's the part that should make you a little furious, though. The label's sales manager made so much money distributing 96 Tears that he used the profits to launch an entirely new record company, one that would go on to sign Kiss, Donna Summer, The Village People. A label built, in part, on the back of this song's success, and the band that actually wrote and recorded it.
Yeah, come on now. A 96 tears. Cry, cry.
Lead singer said it plainly in an interview decades later. They never saw real royalty checks for 96 Tears. Not from the era it sold 1 million copies. Not really, ever.
Teardrops for one heart to carry on.
Some of y'all already know exactly what that feels like. Building the thing that makes everyone else rich, and watching the money walk off in a different direction entirely.
Tears. You're gonna cry. 96 tears.
Put it about as bluntly as anyone could. The man who built an empire off their song went on to get celebrated as a music industry legend, and the band that actually made the record was barely a footnote in his story at all.
Since you left me, you're always like
Number 3, Incense and Peppermints, Strawberry Alarm Clock, 1967.
Little to win, but nothing to lose.
Here's a detail that still catches people off guard. The voice on one of the defining psychedelic anthems of the Summer of Love doesn't belong to anyone in the band. The song started as a B-side, a throwaway instrumental, written by keyboardist Mark Weitz and guitarist Ed King, meant to fill space behind a single nobody expected to chart. The producer sent the music to an outside songwriter to add lyrics. When it came time to record the vocal, none of the band's actual singers felt right for it. So a 16-year-old kid named Greg Munford who happened to be hanging around the studio that day visiting friends, gave it a try instead.
World in two, throwing your pride to one side is the least you can do.
His voice ended up on the final pressing. Munford never joined the band. He's still credited as a guest, decades later, on the band's only #1 hit. And it gets worse for the guys who actually built the song. The producer denied Weitz and King's songwriting credit entirely, even though the melody started with them, handing full credit, and every royalty check that followed, to two outside writers who'd only added lyrics over an existing instrumental. Incense and Peppermints hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in November of 1967, sold over 1 million copies, certified gold.
Dead kings and many things I can define.
To this day, the lead vocal on the band's signature song belongs to someone who was never officially a member at all.
It's a compliments, meaningless nouns. Turn on, tune in, turn your...
If you've ever poured your work into something and then watched somebody else's name end up on it, you know this isn't a small wound. It's the kind that just sits there quietly for the rest of a career.
Good sense, innocence, kryptonite.
Some of y'all are nodding right now. I see you. This one hits different if you've ever built something real and watched the credit walk out the door without you. Guitarist Ed King eventually left to join a southern rock band that needed a guitarist. You'd know that band too. He co-wrote Sweet Home Alabama. #2, Last Kiss. J. Frank Wilson and the Cavaliers, 1964. A teenage tragedy song, a genre that flourished in the early 60s. Death discs, DJs used to call them. Telling the story of a boy borrowing his father's car, taking his girlfriend out, swerving to avoid a stalled truck on a foggy road, and giving her one final kiss as she dies in his arms. The song was written by a Georgia singer named Wayne Cochran, inspired by accidents he'd witnessed on a dangerous stretch of road near his home. J. Frank Wilson and the Cavaliers covered it in 1964, and it climbed to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, held off the top spot only by the Supremes. Sold over 1 million copies. Earned a gold record. Here's the part of this story I still have a hard time saying out loud. On October 22nd, 1964, just weeks after Last Kiss became a national hit, the band's own producer, Sonley Roush, fell asleep at the wheel while driving their tour car. He crashed into a trailer truck. He died. Wilson, badly injured, was rushed into surgery and somehow went back on tour within a week. A song about a fatal car crash had just become real for the people who made it famous. What do you do with that? Wilson kept performing Last Kiss on crutches, night after night, the press connecting the dots between the lyrics and his own scars in real time. The band earned its gold record while their producer's funeral was still fresh. And here's where this story should end. It doesn't, though. J. Frank Wilson spent the rest of his life struggling. 8 marriages, alcoholism, working as a nursing home orderly on the 10th anniversary of his only hit, until he died in 1991, just shy of 50. Very far, there in the road, straight ahead. But in 1999, Pearl Jam recorded their own version of Last Kiss for a Kosovo Relief compilation. It became their biggest Billboard hit ever, bigger than the original. So I swerve to the right, never forget the sound that... 35 years after a boy gave his girlfriend a last kiss, in a song that turned tragically, eerily real, a whole new generation discovered it through a cover and had no idea where it actually came from. Even though I hold her tight, I lost my love, my life. #1, Telstar, The Tornadoes, 1962. This is the biggest seller on the entire list, and unless you're deep into music history, you've probably never heard the name behind it. Produced by a wildly eccentric, self-taught sound engineer named Joe Meek, working out of a cramped flat above a leather shop on Holloway Road in London, Telstar was written to celebrate the launch of the world's first communications satellite. Meek built the whole track around a clavioline keyboard, backwards tape effects, and, this is real, a recording of a toilet flushing, slowed down and reversed to sound like a rocket launch. It hit #1 on both the UK and US charts in December of 1962, the first single by any British group to top the American charts, a full year and a half before the Beatles managed the same feat. It sold an estimated 5 million copies worldwide, won an Ivor Novello Award. Margaret Thatcher would later call it her favorite piece of music ever recorded. Here's the problem. A French composer named Jean Ledrout sued Meek for plagiarism almost immediately, claiming Telstar had been lifted from a film score he'd written 2 years earlier. The lawsuit froze every royalty payment Meek was owed, for what was, at the time, one of the best-selling singles in recording history. For 4 years, Meek fought that case while sinking deeper into debt, paranoia, and an obsession with the occult. He genuinely believed he could contact the spirit of Buddy Holly through tape recordings made in graveyards. And here's the part that still breaks something in me every time I tell it. On February 3rd, 1967, 8 years to the day after Buddy Holly's death, Meek, deep in another argument with his landlady over noise and back rent, shot her, then turned the gun on himself. 3 weeks later, the lawsuit was finally settled. In his favor, he never knew. The money that could have changed everything arrived exactly 21 days too late for the only person it could have saved. You almost can't make this up. A song that sold 5 million copies, made chart history, soundtracked the literal future of global communication, and the man who built it from nothing died believing it had ruined him. Here's what I think about every time Telstar comes on. It stops being a quirky space-age novelty record the second you know the story. It becomes a monument to somebody who built something genuinely historic and never lived long enough to find out the world had finally agreed.